Stranger things have happened. We are talking crazy draft trades today, and we'll get into the wide receiver group as well. Welcome to Locked On Chiefs.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Howdy, friends and neighbors. Thanks for being with us again and making us your first listen here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, where we're for free on every platform, including YouTube. Make sure you like, sub, and hit the bell over there. This is going to be a fun one. We have a lot to go over. Thanks for getting with us one more time. Craziness hits, and I'm down for it. I'm Ryan Tracy, the founder of Rogue Analytics and Performance Consulting, home of the Athletic Matrix. Over at rogueapc.com, you can get a discount. You go over there and use the code Locked On. Check that out. Oh, crazy is the name of the game today.
Crazy is the name of the game. There was a talk of the Chiefs trading all the way up to number 3, and we'll get to that in just a second. My name is Chris Clark, founder of Chiefs Corner, as you can see on the link below Ryan on YouTube. It's kcchiefscorner.com. GMFB had a really crazy trade idea, and I can't understand it from the Chiefs' perspective, but I thought we should at least talk about it. Trading 29-30, and I don't remember if it was 50 or 62, and McCole Hardman to trade all the way up to number 3.
Yeah, that does sound crazy. That's a K trade. I'm guessing that's what that is, because that's so out there. I don't think that that's in the realm of possibility. But what would you have to do if you got to that point? What was it, 29, 50, and McCole?
No, 29, 30, 50, and McCole.
I mean, that's you're already down a receiver.
Right.
To include McCole and your top 3 picks is ridiculous.
Yeah, you can't do that. You can't do that trade, but there is only one scenario where you could possibly do that trade, and that's for an edge rusher. You can't do it for a wide receiver. That's the only argument I would make. And I don't even think you can do it for an edge rusher in this class. If you had a guy like a Nick Bosa or a Myles Garrett in this class, maybe you could try to pull off a trade like that and get him. But that's not what's in this class.
No, it's not. Nobody is the Nick Bosa level here as we speak right now. There's warts on everyone. I actually think Trayvon Walker is probably the best bet for longevity, but that's because he can play 2 positions. Yes, he's an edge. Everybody wants him to be an edge, but if you put him in the defensive line group, he's actually not only the most athletic, but he's one of the top 3 most productive players as a tackle as well. So like that for me gives him versatility that you can fall back on. But you don't trade up for versatility. No. You don't give up a player that knows your offense. In fact, the only player that knows your offense and your top 3 picks to go get a guy that his biggest claim to fame right now is he's versatile enough that he's pretty safe.
Assuming that he's going to be there at 3, because he may not be.
True. There's always that possibility.
Everybody's talking about Malik Willis going 2, and if that happens and Aiden Hutchinson goes 1, then Trayvon Walker's there. But I've seen mocks that have shown Trayvon Walker going number 1. So,
yeah,
you can't make that trade if you're Kansas City. And I knew that when I saw it. I just thought it would be something that was interesting to actually start looking at, because you start looking at the different areas on this roster and where they need people. If they want a top edge, they're going to have to trade up into the top 10.
Yeah. I mean, and when you talk about a top edge, that's a guy that can come in and be not only proficient, but be an impact player.
Yep. And there's only 4 of them in this class that can play in 2022 anyway. Maybe Ajabo can be there, but he will not be playing this year, more than likely.
Right. Ajabo is probably would be the next one. I would venture that there are some others farther down. Like, I think Boye Mafe could be productive by the end of the season. Like he needs that season to get going. I think Cameron Thomas could do the same thing. So, but there's much less certainty with those 2 guys. It depends on the system they get to. It depends how many reps they get based on who else is already there. Ebiketie, Karlaftis, Hall's a tackle, really. So is Pascal. But there are guys that could develop into that. But again, you don't trade up for that kind of talent.
Yeah, no, you're looking at the best case scenario for Kansas City is getting a guy like Jermaine Johnson. And I still think you have to get top 10 to get Jermaine Johnson. So that's going to be a high ask for Kansas City. And I don't think it's going to be something that they're going to be willing to do. Obviously, I'm going to say that. And this is for today's show. And maybe they'll go out and they'll do it tomorrow. So we'll see. But I just can't see them making that kind of a move for an edge. But they have another need at wide receiver. And from every mock I've seen, it seems like you start getting into the wide receiver room maybe at 8, 9, or 10. Just depends. Sometimes you don't have a wide receiver going before 10. If that happens, it really helps push the people down. But we need to talk about that wide receiver group and who Kansas City could possibly get and where they need to be to get them when we get back from this.
Yeah, because I can't bet on who's going to be there. If you want to bet on who's going to be there at given pick, you can do that at BetOnline. Those props are up, running, and fun. If you want to get into it, you can also bet on anything else going around the sports world. Whether it's hockey right now, I know that's starting to pick up steam for the playoffs. That's always a fun one. You can even do e-gaming over at BetOnline. They give you all the props and the information that you need to put your money down on the line in a smart way and not take unnecessary risk. I think that's important when you're talking about doing something with online gambling. And this is the way that it goes. They give you everything that you need, all the information, and that helps you do better. So check out BetOnline where the game starts. Now, I do want to shout out before we get any farther to the live NFL draft events. We're going to have a live stream here half an hour before the show starts. It'll be on this channel. Then you'll jump over to the Locked On NFL channel where me and Eric Crocker will run the entire show along with a bunch of our corporate folks, Kanani, Isaac. We're going to have all of the specific show hosts in there. It's going to be a huge thing. You can stream it on Roku and Amazon and a bunch of the streaming services. It'll be on television in some select markets as well. We'll be shooting it in a studio in Dallas, so I'm very excited about it. I think you guys will really enjoy that. So check it out. We'll have more information for you as we get closer to the draft as well, but don't forget about that, the Locked On NFL Draft live show. So you mentioned wide receiver. Now, do you want to start with still this scenario of trading up for it?
What I really want to look at is where you think wide receivers are going to go in this draft. And I know there's ranges. Everything that I've been seeing, it looks like most of the top 5 wide receivers that you would talk about being the normal first-round picks are going to be gone by the time the Chiefs pick at 29.
Yeah, you have to think so. Because of the lack of quarterback. And I'm not convinced that the Detroit Lions are going to pick a quarterback. They might even pick a wide receiver before they picked a quarterback.
Yeah.
Because they seem to have blinders on about Jared Goff. And I think because they have multiple picks in the first, they have 34 as well. Like they have enough ammunition that they can kind of hold back. So that does just kind of artificially raise the floor of where the wide receivers are going to go. And I agree. There's the top 5, the top 4 in particular can walk in and be day one starters. I have faith in the 5th guy on my board, which is Jahan Dotson, being able to do the same, but that is dependent on the personnel that's already there in the system.
So just to be clear, day one starters as a 1 or a 2?
Doesn't matter to me.
Okay. I just was curious if you had that distinction.
No, it would depend on the role. Every team is going to still need 2. So,
right.
Wilson, London, Williams, Olave, no problem. I think Jahan Dotson, if he's got the right fit, he can walk in and do that as well. Burks, I think, is a bit more of a role player, but he would be next. Pickens, Watson, Moore, they're all ifs and maybes. But I think just that list gives you, Bell, Mechie, Tolbert. You can even go down as far as Pierce, Robinson, Shakir. Like, those are a number of maybes, right? And I think that list alone shows you the difference between the edge group and the wide receiver group. Round 2, round 3, you're going to have options for guys that might be able to get there in their rookie year. Whereas the developmental, the 2nd and 3rd tier of edge rushers, I don't think there is there and ready to be a starter in year 1.
So even a guy like Cameron Thomas?
Cam's right on the outside for me. He's number 5. And so I would call him a serious maybe, but again, that's a little bit more dependent on scheme. Beyond him, Ebiketie needs some time. Boy, Maffe's pretty close. I would put him with Cam Thomas. Like, that list gets pretty short pretty fast. And when you're beyond those 3, then you're talking about Nick Benito's got to be in a 3-4. Inigbari's not ready to be a starter. Sam Williams isn't ready to be a starter. Myjai Sanders isn't ready to be a starter yet. Like, those are all guys that need that season to get under their belt. Maybe if they land with the playoff team, they could make an impact, but I think it'll take a time.
So when you start looking at the wide receiver group, getting one of those top 4 guys that you were talking about, where do you think that they all go? What is your range that you see them going in?
If the rumor's correct, and the Saints have not made that trade into the teens to then package and then move up again for a quarterback. It only makes sense that they need pass catchers.
Mm-hmm.
I would think the top 4 are gone by the Saints' last pick, which is what, 19 currently?
Yeah.
That's my thought.
So at that point, if you want one of those top 4, you got to get above the Saints at 19. That's going to be a tall order. It's going to cost you.
You're back trying to talk to the Eagles because I don't think the Ravens are going to help you. I don't think the Texans are going to help you. Going up to 11's too expensive. Chargers certainly aren't going to trade with you.
Yeah, even though I've seen people from ESPN that have said that the Chargers would trade with the Chiefs to get a wide receiver. I don't see that happening. I disagree. I think the Texans would trade with the Chiefs. They have so many needs. I don't think they really care about trading in the conference. But, I agree. Baltimore, Chargers, they're not going to trade in conference. So you're looking at any of the NFC teams and any of the crap AFC teams. And yes, I said that. Now, the Jets aren't an option at 10, and I get that. Trading back with the Jets, they have so many picks that could become an option if you want to hit in certain areas. But trading up for those 4 guys, you're going to throw in at least, a third-round pick, maybe your bottom second-round pick just to get up that high to get –
Yeah, I think that's going to be the demand. You could maybe get to the Cardinals at 23 with a third, maybe a little bit. I don't know. I think Bill Belichick's going to, really push. I don't think the Pack's going to trade out at 22 because they have needs too, specifically at wide receiver.
Yep.
So it's tough sledding in there.
Yeah. It's very tough sledding. And you have to wonder what Kansas City is going to do at that position. This is where one of the things that I really watched last year in the draft or leading up to the draft was, what was Kansas City going to do at left tackle? Right now you have that question at edge. Kansas City made a move the week before. So that would be next week to go and make a move to be able to bring in a left tackle to where they didn't have a huge hole. That's kind of what I'm expecting Kansas City to do at some point. I'm not thinking that they're going to find an edge that's going to necessarily make it to where they don't have to draft one. Obviously, that's not probably going to happen unless they trade for somebody. And then you're giving up a bunch of draft capital for an edge rusher. And you've got to figure out how you're going to deal with the cap. And that's a whole nother issue. So then you start looking at some of the other guys that you could be looking at. Treylon Burks is the guy you mentioned. You have your other wide receivers. Sky Moore was another one that was mentioned. Who else is down there at that 5, 6, 7, 8 range? In your mind, Christian Watson. I know people have thrown that name out a lot.
Sure, Moore, Watson, Pickens. I think Mechie would be in that group. Then maybe Tolbert Bell. Wandale, Alec Pierce. Then you're getting to Khalil Shakir, Calvin Austin. Those are more, late second day, early third day kind of area.
So at this point, you're looking at, and where do you have most of those guys like Sky Moore, Christian Watson? You're looking at least in your rankings, you're thinking bottom of the second in your rankings. I don't think that's necessarily where they go, but
right.
Just because I think everything's going to get pushed up. We haven't talked about Jahan Dotson either, which is another guy that.
Yeah. Dotson's right around the edge of the first round for me. Watson, I think when it grades out, he's right at like 49 or 50 right now. I have not solidified those. Pickens would be slightly ahead of him. Sky Moore, I think, would be slightly behind him for me. So like all in that mid-range, but can you take a chance on waiting to 50? If you could see a little run in the 40s or something like that, that makes it very, very dangerous.
Well, with the run in the teens on the top tier wide receivers, you're more than likely going to get another run in the 20s and 30s on that next tier. So you're probably going to have guys that are going to get pushed up regardless of whether or not they should fit that system or fit that area in the draft.
Yeah. And again, it's all about waiting until whenever the teams do feel the quarterbacks are then value.
Right.
I think it's going to be in the second, but it might not be till the mid or late second.
Well, and the QBs could throw a whole nother wrench in this entire thing because you're talking Desmond Ridder and Malik Willis and Kenny Pickett as 3 guys that could go in the first round, or maybe they don't.
Yeah. I mean, I have Corral as a guy that should go in the first ahead of Malik Willis. Will it happen? Who knows?
Yeah, and I keep seeing mocks having Willis at 6, which is crazy to me, but that is exactly what is going on right now. It's draft season. Who knows what's going to happen? But I want to tell you about our friends over at Shady Rays. Shady Rays is an independent glasses company that gives you the features of $200 sunglasses for a fraction of the price. That means polarized lenses, well-constructed durable frames, and premium high-end finishes. Also, something you won't find anywhere else is Shady Rays' insane protection program. Shady Rays includes lost and broken protection on every pair. They will send you a brand new pair if you lose them, no matter what happened. Give them a try, and if you don't love them, you'll pay nothing. It's as simple as that. Exclusively for our listeners, head to shadyrays.com and use promo code LOCKEDON to get 50% off 2 or more pairs of polarized sunglasses. That's code LOCKEDON for their best deal of the season. 50% off 2 or more pairs of Shady Rays sunglasses, backed by over 150,000 verified 5-star reviews. Man, 5-star reviews is something that this Chiefs draft class absolutely needs to have.
It definitely does.
So many different positions that you want to hit. And so when you start looking at where they're at with edge, if they, are not able to get an edge, obviously they can't get the top 4. Are they going to take Mafe at 29? Is Mafe going to be available at 29? We just talked about a run on the wide receivers. If the top 4 are gone in the top 10, they're going to start reaching for edges probably in the late teens and 20s just because of the position. So, is Mafe going to be there? Don't know. Is Ebiketie going to be there? I mean, there's lots of different questions when it comes to that position. What are some groups of positions that you think Kansas City needs to address that really could be there at 29 and 30? And you get the best player available at that position.
There are some groups that will have their second tier coming up then, and they're just parts of the bigger whole. And if you guys need parts, you need to check out Rock Auto because they have everything you need for your make, model, or what you need to be doing. So don't forget, it's super easy. All you got to do is go over there, fill your cart, and when you check out, put in their little box, let you know how you found out about them. Put Locked On in for us. We'd appreciate that. It makes it easy to get everything from taillights to carpet to anything else that you may need. You need to get over there to rockauto.com and find all the little things that might not be in stock at your store, but that you can get nationally. They're super, super easy to navigate. They're trusted, and they've been in business for 20 years. So check out Rock Auto and let them know that we sent you. We appreciate it. Rock Auto, all the parts your car's ever going to need. And parts for this defense, like you said, there's a couple of tiers. Now, you can get into some of the strays. People are going to be tempted to tell you that the interior defensive tackles are worth it at 30. I'm going to tell you that after you're outside the top 5, this class drops off super, super, super fast. I'm not impressed with the depth there. So does that make it artificial? Yes. Does it make it wrong? Not necessarily. There are some guys that you could look at. I don't think it's viable for, say, a Logan Hall. I think he's a second-round pick. I think that's reaching. I think the cornerbacks are where you're going to find probably the best value. Like we talked about the edges, that second tier is going to be available there. And I think there's more options, I think, with the second tier of corners than there is with the second tier of edges. So that'd probably be the next place that I look.
So when you talk interior defensive line, you think Devontae Wyatt's gone by 29?
Oh, yeah. I do.
Yeah. I've seen him. It just depends where you look. Different people have him different places. Interior defensive line is one of those things that in a lot of ways can be looked at like interior offensive line. In this class, though, he is the cream of the crop, right?
Yeah. I mean,
I know you're a Georgia
out right
fan.
Next to his buddy. Well, yeah. And he grades right next to his partner. They're literally 1/10 different on my grading scale. But the athleticism, the production differentiates them. I think Devontae is the best pass rusher for the NFL of the two of them. But then there's Travis Jones as well, who should be available well after 30. I don't think he's a first-round player, even on my board, and I don't think he's going to get pushed up there artificially. So he would be an option at 30. Could he survive to 50? That might be pushing it, but he would probably be number 3 on the list that you want to consider because of those 3 guys, they could all walk in and do something for you. I think the first 2 can be day 1 starters. I think Travis Jones should be able to do that. I just got to see it in camp before I'm 100% certain.
So you're talking Travis Jones and Devontae White, and who was the third?
Jordan Davis, the other Georgia tackle.
Yeah, gotcha.
The biggin.
Yeah, the big boy. But he's a little bit of a different player. He doesn't give you the pass rush that Devontae Wyatt does. And so Do you think that
He
really
hasn't.
hampers? Right. Do you think that hampers where he goes?
I don't think that it does. His production is down compared to Devontae White, but that's also because, much like Trayvon Walker, wasn't asked to be like the major pass rusher. He ate a lot of doubles. He played the run primarily as like that were his like high effort. Whereas you get some players that, they make it through first and second down, but they're really there to pass rush, right? So they're high effort downs or thirds. I think he's a little bit opposite. But when you look at, he has some hand skills. He has the explosiveness that's right on par and in some ways even better than Wyatt. So if he's used and coached in the right way to be a pass rush first player, I think he can evolve into that in the league.
And then you start looking at, the other Georgia players, and Lewis Seen, you have Quay Walker, you have Nakobe Dean. I mean, all those guys coming from one defense is just absolutely insane.
Get you some. That's what I'm saying.
Do you think that Nakobe Dean or Quay Walker fit this defense?
I think Quay does. I think he could be your third, and I think eventually he'll be able to play in a nickel down situation with Willie Gay that gives you two true nickel backers. It's just a little bit more of a projection because he hasn't played the volume that Dean has.
So that, in your mind, could be he could step in, be that third linebacker for Kansas City, potentially be your nickel backer like you're talking about, giving you those two guys that can really get after it in the nickel. And I think that's really going to help. That could really help Kansas City. Where do you think he's going to go? Do you think he's going to be early second round pick?
I think he's going to be a second round pick. I don't know about early. I think it's funny that like the media and the mock sites, they're all kind of catching up to what the teams have known all along. And he's not as dominant. So I don't know that he's going to command a top 50 pick. I think he'll probably be there at 50. He might even be there at 62. I think the recent talk of him going in the 30s is a little overbloated.
And I do think it's kind of funny. I know Chiefs fans probably will not like taking another linebacker in the second round. But if you can get that defense
it's worked the last couple of years.
Exactly. If you can get that defense to where you have a very solid linebacker group, that's really going to help this defense. Stopping the run, helping, shut down tight ends and running backs out of the backfield. That's been a huge thorn in the side of this defense over the past couple of seasons.
Yeah, and the better you are in those two downs, the more you can get into third and longs, and you bring your nickel and more importantly, your dime package in that you feel most comfortable about defending the pass with. And then as a unit, as a defense, you're feeling better about what your situation is on each down.
Yeah, and you started talking earlier, and I know I'm kind of jumping, but you started talking earlier a little bit about the corners. That is a group that just seems like every time I look at different mock scenarios or I look at different rankings for players, you have just so many different tiers of corners. You have the top two guys, and then you have this group that is, could be anywhere from 30 to 60. I mean, you have just this other tier of second round of corners. I think those are going to get pushed up. Or is there anybody that you really think that you would say is going to fit Kansas City?
There's two players that I think fit on what we've seen them do in the past, trying to be physical, trying to play man without being in press. And that's Booth from Clemson and Elam from Florida. Now, I don't know if that means the same thing for the future because I think Elam is a man corner. I think Booth can play both. And I think if we see Steve Spagnuolo feel that he needs to play more zone, then I think Booth's the better fit of those two. But there's also guys out there that I think could probably help you as well, including Kobe Bryant later. There's just a volume of them. Mcduffie and Gordon are the two from Washington that play predominantly zone, like 80%. So that I think is a bit of a departure, but it doesn't mean they can't play man either. I think they're both a little undervalued right here. There was some talk about McDuffie being a top 10 selection for about 5 minutes here a couple of weeks ago. That was always overblown, but he is a viable first round, certainly a second round talent.
And the question that you have with McDuffie, though, and some of the other corners is you have to really watch what traits Kansas City really adheres to when it comes to their corners. And McDuffie may not fit that. So he may be off their board.
Gordon might not either, to tell you the truth. It's close.
Yeah. Yeah. Arm length is something that they really look at in that room. And that's a huge deal for the Chiefs defense. So expect that to be taken into account if they're going to be drafting a corner. Anything else that you want to throw out for the first 3 rounds that we haven't really discussed?
I think just to wrap up the bottom of the corner group, I think it's a little overblown that Tariq Woolen or Zion McCollum are second round players. Their tape is not. It's the athleticism that pumps them up. I think they both on film are probably 4th round guys. So if it was another year, I would say maybe it's a L'Jarius Sneed situation. We're in the 4th. You can get a player that has the athletic upside, but has more projectable film. I think this year they're going to get pushed up. And so maybe it's the 94, the 103 area that Chiefs might have to look at if they want one of those long, tall, super athletic type corners. That is exactly what they usually do. And both those guys have shown at least glimpses of being able to play both zone and man equally well.
Yeah, and at that point, you're sitting there and you address the corner position. You probably address the edge position in the first round, and maybe even the wide receiver position in the first round. Lots of questions. And I do think one of my favorite things about the mock drafts and everything that I've been watching is different teams are going to be wanting to move around in this draft because they all have players rated differently. And if you can find somebody that wants to get to your position, or you can find somebody that wants to drop out of a position, maybe you can move up or maybe you can move back. And that's really going to be where you can get some value at different times.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
This feels like it's going to be an active draft night because it's going to be how it falls. It feels like.
Right. Yeah, and the thing that really sticks out to me is, you and I talked about this on Tuesday. They have the ability to take 12 picks. They have the roster space if they can find the right guys. Mm-hmm. But you're not going to go use three seventh-round picks and they're going to make the team. So, what are you going to do with those sevenths? You can move up in rounds, maybe a couple of picks. It's a question of whether or not you can actually drop back a couple of picks, pick up another pick. If you find somebody desperate for a QB or a specific position of somebody that they like, maybe you can get lucky and you can get an extra second or third round pick.
Certainly
it's draft
possible.
night. Crazy things happen.
Yeah,
I absolutely cannot wait because it's one of my favorite times of the year. And you're going to be having quite the time of your life for that entire weekend.
Yeah, you guys are going to be able to see us both that night. So be prepared. It's going to be a long evening, not just Thursday, but Friday and Saturday as well. It's kind of a marathon at this point rather than the sprint that it used to be.
And I will tell you, I was just going to say this. I will tell you, both of us will be at the draft in Kansas City, regardless of what's going on. So I'm just throwing that out there now. I will be
roaming the streets, accosting Daniel Jeremiah.
Yeah, I will be in Kansas City for the draft. I guarantee that. Already started making plans.
Nice. Well, hope you guys are making plans as well. That's it for us today. We'll be back with you tomorrow. Chiefs could do something in the meantime. If they do, we'll let you know. But otherwise, we're really starting to get focused in on what they need to do in this draft. Let us know what you think in the YouTube comments or over on the reviews on Spotify or iTunes. We appreciate your time and your support as always. We'll be back with you tomorrow, and we'll talk to you then.